Hey, you wild women, what if I told you that the biggest thing that could be holding you back from hitting seven figures in your business or reaching that next revenue milestone isn't your strategy? It's actually a thing that I've identified as of late called the fear gap. Today, we're going to dive into how to recognize it, how to face it, and break through the fears that are keeping you from playing small. So, last night, I was putting my 11-year-old son, Noah, to bed. And we were discussing the talk that I was going to be giving today at the local college. So, one of the local colleges called me up and said, Renee, can we have you come in to teach the students about personal branding to help them get a job? And I said, yeah, this is great because the same thing with personal branding to position you to find a job or career is the same thing you would do for your business. So Noah couldn't fall asleep. I laid down next to him and I said, yo, so tomorrow I'm speaking in front of 40 students to inspire them. And what are your thoughts on personal branding? Explain it to me. And I was dumbfounded what came out of his mouth. He said to me, Mama, personal branding is when you find your passion and you take action. And isn't that the truth? Because when we look at people, we scroll them on Instagram or we see what they're doing online, they're speaking on stages, they're growing their business, they are 100% passionate about the thing that they are doing and they're taking action every single day. Well, going back to my days running my agency, especially when we were first really growing fast, is I kept hitting what my husband calls the ceiling of complexity and an internal thermostat. So Gay Hendricks in the book, The Big Leap, he talks about this internal thermostat. And I never actually valued myself as more than somebody who could make $100,000 because in my mind, that was a lot of money. And yes, that is a lot of money to some people. But for what I was trying to achieve and the actual financial goal I had, it was way beyond a $100,000 annual salary. So when I actually reflected back on the moments where the opportunities came to grow the business, to grow my income, I did everything in my means to throw grenades into the business to slow it down so that I wouldn't hit that next level because I didn't feel like I deserved this. And maybe this sounds like you. You feel like maybe you don't deserve the income that you're earning today, or the clients that you have, or the partner that you have. You don't feel worthy of it. That's when I realized that's the work I actually have to do, is on my worthiness. Another time when this came up was when my last business partner just got up and left. And the business was growing and we were having a blast and we were creating new systems and making a dent in the world of PR. And she just decided it wasn't for her and got up and left. I was devastated by this, thinking, how am I going to build this business alone? Is my team going to trust me? Are my clients going to stay? Are they going to trust me? And I kept holding myself back from leaning in to the work because I was worried about growth. If I grew, who is going to be the person that once did the work that my partner did? Turns out I can do it. But I limited myself from actually achieving these certain levels because the gap, which was my passion in creating and growing this agency, and the action, which was consistent daily action, that gap was that fear gap. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, what is the fear gap? It is the distance between finding your passion and the consistent daily action that it takes to achieve that next level or to cross the finish line. Or in other words, it's the space between where you are now and where you know you could be if fear wasn't holding you back. It's that distance between your current comfort zone and your next level of growth, typically marked by resistance or uncertainty or self-worth or self-doubt or an immense feeling of unworthiness. In my life, this shows up in forms of perfectionism, overthinking, procrastination on making big moves, decision-making fatigue, staying in the planning phase, taking another course. I see this all the time with clients. They're like, hey, I'm stuck at this level of my business. So you know what? I'm going to go and take another course, or I'm going to go back to school, or I'm going to go to the seminar. They don't have faith in themselves, but most of us actually have the ability to break free of this fear gap. But not only that, to actually get to the next level. So when I see this with clients or with friends that are just taking another course, I know it's their perfectionist self showing up saying, hey, listen, I'm not worth this much. I don't deserve that success. So I'm just going to stop that growth, go back and re educate myself, and maybe I'll launch another product, launch another service. This distraction of actually focusing on the thing you need to do because you are so afraid of the success. So, where I see this showing up, because this showed up in my business, maybe for you, could be like hesitating on increasing your prices or delaying hiring help. Maybe it's not pitching high value customers because you don't feel like you can do the work, staying in the planning phase for too long. Like, come on, double click on that. Sometimes all we do is plan, 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 and we feel fulfilled because the planning is done. Yeah, we actually haven't done the work. It could be maybe avoiding visibility opportunities. And in the world of PR and gaining authority and influence, you got to be out there. So a lot of people avoid that because worst case scenario in their mind, they're actually going to make the sale. It could also show up in starting too many things to avoid one thing actually taking off. Hello, I'm guilty of that. I am a quick starter and I love taking action, especially on new ideas and strategizing and looking at the creative. When it comes to like being in the weeds of things, like building the engine, it doesn't interest me. And knowing that about myself, then I can hire other people to do the work for me. So this took time for me to actually adapt to, and I see it in friends, and maybe this is with you, but you really need to learn how to adopt the $1 million mindset. It's as simple as that. And Chris, in our capitalist world today, the way that the market is going, potentially what we need is $1 billion mindset because $1 million ain't going to get you so far anymore. So in this too, like looking at businesses, and especially like, even if you have a job, but looking at businesses, there are certain plateaus, like ceilings of plateaus when it comes to revenue. And I recognize these, actually did some research. Thank you to ChatGPT, because I wanted to pull these out for you to see maybe where you are in terms of the world of business. So there's the solopreneur ceiling. This is typically where you are earning up to $150,000 or $250,000. This could mean that you have a small business and then you have vendors working with you, supporting you. You're maxed out on your personal capacity, right? You can't be building $1 million businesses alone. It doesn't make sense. All of your income is tied to your personal time. You're exchanging time for dollars. There are no systems or very few systems in place, and there might only be a small team, if no team. You're wearing all the hats. You're doing all the things. And people that perpetually stay stuck in this particular plateau are the ones that don't delegate. They think they need to do all the accounting, all the banking, all the payroll, all the social media, all the things. They never actually give themselves permission to get out of this plateau because the fear gap for them means that they're going to have to hire somebody else to do the work and they don't trust other people to do it, or they think they can't afford it. But if you're really, say you're like charging hourly $250 an hour, or say $200 an hour, and you're doing $10 tasks, it's actually costing you time. It's costing you money to do the $10 tasks. $190 is what it's costing you. So the fear over delegating is one of the biggest gaps when it comes to the solopreneur ceiling. Now, as you transition up to the team transition wall, this is about $300,000 to $500,000. And this is where we struggle to delegate because we know we have to give up things that maybe we're good at, maybe we enjoy, or we worry somebody cannot do as great of a job. Your systems at this point might not be fully documented. So I always say, as soon as you start in the solopreneur phase, start creating SOPs. Take Loom. Loom is super affordable. You can screen record your SOPs. You basically say, I have to do this task anyway, so I'm going to record it and create an SOP. The more you can build out that manual for training, the easier it would be to delegate. So you need to create these systems. A lot of people are often very hesitant to invest in high-level support here because they worry that it's going to cost them money. In the short term, it does. But in the long term, employees and vendors are actually supposed to give you 2 to 3x the return. That's the math. This is where cash flow struggles come in. because now all of a sudden you have more expenses. You have a bigger overhead because you're paying people. But if you do your math correct, then you know you can slowly delegate. Doesn't mean you have to hire 2 or 3 people full time if you're not growing fast enough. It just means that there are things you do need to take off your plate completely or delete in order to grow the business. So think about where you are the strongest suit in your business. Um, think about this also as it shows up maybe in your personal life and parenting too, the delegation things. This team transition wall is the one of the bigger, more expensive leaps you have to take to get past the $500,000 mark. And when I ran my agency with 12 people and we were achieving over $1 million in sales, this was the tough part because now all of a sudden you're managing clients and managing people and expectations, and there's a lot more involved. Remember, you are a product of your environment. And as more people come into the office, there's more energies and different needs, and it becomes more tough. So if you actually want to grow your business and get out of this fear gap, you have to become really good at managing people. You have to become a leader. Now, the next system in the $1 million business is about systems and scaling plateaus. So, this is often when you outgrow initial business model. So, whatever business plan you may have written years ago, throw it out the window at this stage. You need more sophisticated operations. You need to sharpen your leadership skills, like fine sharpen your leadership skills, and your marketing needs will evolve regardless of the type of business. This is where you're managing probably about 10 employees, especially if you're in the service businesses. And if you want to get past the first $1 million, that is the biggest leap. So the fear gaps are in these moments where you know you might need to do something, you just don't do it. You push back. My fear gap in this new event that I'm launching on June 12th in Kelowna, 2025, my biggest fear gap is worried that I get this all the time. I can't sleep at night and I think, oh gosh, the speakers that we want to come, will they come? And when they get here, how am I supposed to be with them and treat them? How am I going to sell 300 tickets? I've never done this before. But the fact that I've put it out in the universe and I talked about it with enthusiasm, it's already creating abundance. People are already contacting me, wanting to volunteer, wanting to support me, buy tickets, sell tickets. Getting over the fear of actually doing it, that was the biggest hurdle. Now, if you've done events before, they're a massive overhead because you have to prepay, put down a deposit for the space, secure catering, all this tech stuff online, and maybe room blocks at hotels, which are insanely expensive. So the fear is like, now I'm putting down money for an event I've never ran before, and I'm betting on myself that people are going to show up in order for me to at least pay back the expenses that I've incurred, and then hope to make a lot of profit on top of that and change lives, of course. But if I never did the work to understand that I do have this gap, and it is from my passion to action, and it is the fear, and that gap is the difference between somebody who stays where they are and somebody who grows, between the person who never grows their business and the person that becomes successful, the person who stays at $100,000, the person that becomes a millionaire. It's that gap between passion and action. So to break through this, and some things I've done too, is the fear to action framework. So you need to identify specific triggers of your fears. For me, my triggers was fear of abandonment because of past business partners leaving me, key employees quitting or wanting something more than I could afford. I was so worried that somebody was going to leave me in this and leave me with all the work to do. And it has happened in the past, and every single time I've come out ahead. So when I think of the trigger, I think, okay, that happened, yes, but it isn't who I am now. It's not the story that is going to lay out for the next 6 months to a year. I won't let it happen again. Then you have to calculate the cost of inaction. So for me, the cost of inaction would have been like the laying on my deathbed, gosh, I wish I would have done this event, at least to see what I can get from it, at least to see the momentum I can create for other people, the impact I can have, the possibility I can breathe into other people. Calculating the cost of inaction meant that, gosh, there are probably women out there that need this event to help them feel good, confident, to break through their plateau, to break through their ceiling. Create the support system. I already did. I'm so far ahead of the game when it comes to this event. Like at the time of this recording, we're like 9 months out. That is pretty early in the world of events. However, I already have an entire roster of volunteers. I have people that are willing to fly in from another country to help me. Knowing that the system is there and the support system is there was a comfort blanket I needed to keep going. Then I needed to design my first bold move. What does that look like? For me, it meant finding somebody who is already in this space, who I respect, love, and adore, who can be my co host at this event. And I found the most beautiful person to work with me who's 50-50 on risk, who is 50-50 on profits. And we've already started collaborating, and it has been such a great experience. Then I needed to build momentum with my quick wins. So that meant creating a 9-month roadmap. What do I need to do every single week of every month? And then having that and picking away at it every single day for 1 to 2 to 3 hours every day. I'm looking at the to-dos and I'm taking action. There's always some movement. There's something happening on a daily, consistent basis. Because the more you chip away at it, the more you chip away at the rock, the more the fossil appears underneath. Every step you take when you're climbing a mountain, the closer you get to the top. It doesn't happen in one chisel. It doesn't happen in one step. Knowing that I could actually achieve this momentum and creating this event that I've been wanting to do for years now was all that. So these are some practical tips in understanding that potentially where you are experiencing some plateaus in life, could be in weight loss, could be in health, could be in sleep, is that we keep doing the same thing, expecting the same results. And sometimes we think we're going 1,000 kilometers in this direction, straight ahead of us, and we think that's the destination. When we actually don't do the work to understand why we're going there, when we actually have to veer 1 degree difference to the right, which will take us in a completely new direction. So your fear gap, remember this, your fear gap is actually your growth opportunity in disguise. When we fear something, it's because of something that happened in the past. When we fear something, we think of worst case scenarios. When we fear going online, sharing that I want to lose 20 pounds, or going online and sharing that I don't want to drink alcohol anymore, or telling your partner that maybe you want to have another baby, or telling your business partner that you want to launch a new program because you know it's going to do better than what you have, but you don't do it. And then guess what? It stays in your head. It stays in your head. My spiritual therapist told me this the other day. She actually asked me this question. And she said, what is the difference between a monk and a homeless person? I go, oh gosh, those are worlds apart. And she goes, it's simple as this. When thoughts come into their mind, kind of like clouds, a monk will let it pass through, right? Oh, I have awareness of this thought and I'm going to let it just go. Somebody who is in a perpetual state of despair, these clouds of thoughts come in and they stay there. And then it becomes a part of their story. It becomes a part of their unworthiness. It becomes a part of their detriment, to their failure, to their health. I'm reading the book, Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. And let me tell you, wow, people have cured illnesses simply by changing the way they think. So I think fear is a healthy thing. I think when you recognize you don't want to do something, not that you can't, you don't want to do something because of fear, it means that you care. There's something in there that needs to be done. If you don't want to do something because it really just doesn't interest you, then move that aside. But because you fear something, know that it's because you want to do it. So a quick reflection is really understanding what your fear gap is in every area of your life, how to get through it. What are the steps you can do to get through it in your business, in your personal life? What are the triggers? How do they show up? Really think about this, like journal on this. How do they show up? Because let me tell you, there are days when, like I say, I don't know if this podcast will survive. There are days when I'm like, I don't know if I should host this event. I'm just getting busy again. There are days when I shouldn't be rewriting my book because maybe my time is best used elsewhere. But knowing that I'm getting this nudge from God to say, keep going. This is the course, but start saying no to more things. And I see that. And I'm scared. But worst case scenario is it fails. Worst case scenario is it loses money and I'll figure out a way to make up for it. Worst case scenario is I disappoint people. Worst case scenario is that maybe I get sick because I'm thinking about this too hard or I'm trying too hard. I know all the worst case scenarios, but those worst case scenarios are pale in comparison to the purpose of me trying to do the thing that I'm doing. So if you have a fear gap, try to figure out what is causing it, put your finger on it, press on the bruise, and do the work to get through it. Because, kind of like when you go on a bear hunt, the only way to get through it is to go through it. So until next time, ladies,